I still remember that evening as if it were painted in golden light and soft music. Our boss, 35 years old, elegant and composed, had finally gotten engaged. The news had spread like fire through the office, and when she extended the invitation to the entire staff, we all felt it was more than just formality. It was her way of making us part of her happiness. I wasn't particularly close to her outside the professional space, but she had always treated me with respect. I admired her confidence, her discipline, and the way she commanded attention without even raising her voice. To me, she wasn't just a boss. She was a role model, someone I looked up to with a quiet sort of awe. Maybe that's why I was both excited and nervous about the engagement party. The venue was breathtaking. Chandeliers spilled soft yellow light over ivory-draped tables. Fresh flowers, lilies and roses, lined the walls, their fragrance mingling with the aroma of food. The laughter of my colleagues floated around me as we found our seats, chattering about the night ahead. Music played in the background, not too loud, but just enough to create the rhythm of celebration. When she walked in with her fiancé, all eyes turned. My boss looked radiant in her emerald green dress, her smile brighter than I had ever seen in the office. There was something so pure about that moment, the way her fiancé held her hand, the joy in her eyes, that it filled me with an unexpected warmth. I clapped along with everyone else, cheering for her, feeling genuinely happy that she had found someone to love. Dinner was served not long after, a spread of dishes that catered to every taste. I sat with a few colleagues at a round table, trading jokes, laughing louder than we ever could in the office. Work stress, deadlines, and endless meetings felt far away tonight. For once we were just people, friends, celebrating love. I let myself relax, savoring the flavors of grilled meat, creamy pasta, and the sweet taste of desserts that seemed to melt on the tongue. Then came the dancing. At first I hesitated, tapping my foot while others rushed to the dance floor. But the energy in the room was contagious. I found myself swaying to the music, laughing with my coworkers, forgetting my shyness. The sound of clapping, the swirl of dresses, the sparkle of lights, it all blended into a beautiful chaos that I wished could last forever. But, as every celebration does, the night slowly wound down. One by one, colleagues started leaving, their laughter fading into the night air outside. Plates were cleared, chairs shifted, and the once busy hall grew quieter. I stayed a little longer, not in a rush to leave, still soaking in the afterglow of joy. That's when she appeared, my boss's mother. I had seen her only briefly before, during introductions at the beginning of the evening. She was a striking woman, graceful in a way that made her presence impossible to ignore. Her silver necklace caught the dim light as she walked toward me, her steps calm, her expression warm. "You haven't left yet?" she asked gently, her voice carrying a softness that made me straighten up. I smiled, feeling oddly nervous. I was just about to. It was a lovely evening. She studied me for a moment, then tilted her head slightly. "Come with me for a while. Just a few minutes." I blinked, surprised. Why me? Out of all the staff, why was she asking me? But before I could form an excuse, her hand brushed my arm, light but insistent, guiding me away from the nearly empty hall. Her touch lingered, sending an unexplainable shiver through me. My heart picked up its pace as I followed her down the corridor, leaving behind the faint echoes of laughter and music. I didn't know what awaited me in that quiet room she was leading me toward, but something in her eyes told me this night was about to become unforgettable. The room she led me into was a world apart from the glittering party hall. The door closed behind us with a soft click, shutting out the faint music and chatter that lingered in the distance. Inside, the lighting was gentle, dimmed to a warm glow from a single lamp on the corner table. The walls were lined with bookshelves and family portraits, giving it an air of privacy and intimacy. It felt like stepping into someone's hidden sanctuary, where secrets could be whispered and never overheard. I stood by the door, awkward and uncertain, my palms damp as I tried to understand why she had brought me here. She moved with quiet confidence, her silk shawl brushing against her arm as she adjusted it, then turned to me with a smile that seemed softer now, almost secretive. You seemed a little lost out there, she said, her eyes holding mine longer than felt casual. I thought you might like a quieter place. Her words were gentle, but the way she looked at me carried something more, something that made my breath catch. There was kindness, yes, but also a flicker of intensity that I couldn't quite decipher. My throat went dry as I tried to answer, but all I managed was a nod. She stepped closer, closing the small distance between us. You're very different from the others, she continued, her voice low, almost a whisper now. There's a calmness in you. A sweetness. The compliment startled me. I wasn't used to being noticed like that, especially by someone older, someone so composed. My heart raced, beating against my ribs as if it wanted to escape. I opened my mouth to thank her, but before I could, her hand lifted, hesitant for a second, then firm, brushing lightly against my cheek. The touch froze me in place. It was tender, her fingers warm and delicate, as though she was afraid I might pull away. Every nerve in my body seemed to awaken under that simple gesture. Confusion flooded me. Why was she touching me like this? Why was I letting her? You have beautiful eyes, she murmured, her thumb grazing the edge of my jaw. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This wasn't normal. This wasn't what should happen at an engagement party. What if my boss came in right now and saw this? What would she think of me? Would she assume I was? The thought stumbled in my head. Lesbian. I had never thought of myself that way. And yet, in that moment I couldn't step back. Before I could untangle the chaos in my mind, she leaned closer. My breath caught as her face moved nearer, her perfume, soft, floral, intoxicating, wrapping around me. I felt the warmth of her skin just inches away. And then, without hesitation, her lips pressed against mine. It was soft, almost feather-light at first, as though she was testing me, giving me a chance to step away. But I couldn't. My body betrayed my mind, staying still, trembling but rooted in place. The kiss deepened slightly, her lips moving against mine with a tenderness that made my heart ache. Shock coursed through me. This was my first kiss. My very first. I had imagined it 100 times in idle dreams, but never like this, never in such an unexpected place, never with someone like her. A rush of emotions, fear, warmth, disbelief, and something dangerously close to longing, swept over me. When she finally pulled back, just enough for her breath to mingle with mine, her eyes searched my face. Don't be afraid, she whispered, her hand still cupping my cheek. I only want you to feel cared for. Her words melted into me, and before I could even process them, she leaned in again. This kiss was longer, lingering, filled with an affection that made my knees weaken. My hands, trembling, lifted instinctively, brushing against her shoulders for balance. The silk beneath my fingers was cool, but her warmth radiated through, steady and insistent. I should have stopped her. I should have said something, pulled away, reminded her that her daughter, my boss, was just outside. But instead, I let myself sink into the unfamiliar sweetness of it. Each kiss felt like it carried unspoken promises, like she wanted me to believe I was cherished in a way I had never felt before. A tiny voice in my head screamed in panic. What if someone walks in? What if she tells my boss? What if this changes everything? The fear clawed at me, but her lips silenced those thoughts each time they found mine again. My chest rose and fell quickly, every breath heavy as though I had just run a race. But there was no running here, only surrender. The way she kissed me, gently, carefully, almost protectively, made it impossible to resist. She didn't kiss me like someone claiming possession. She kissed me like someone offering comfort, as though she wanted to pour affection into me with every touch. When she finally rested her forehead against mine, both of us breathing heavily, I realized I was trembling. My voice cracked when I finally spoke, a confession whispered into the quiet. That was my first kiss. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened with something that looked like both surprise and tenderness. She smiled, her thumb brushing my lip as if to remember the moment. Then I'm honored, she whispered back. I'll make sure it won't be your last. The words sent another shiver down my spine. I didn't know whether to be terrified or elated. My heart was torn between the fear of being discovered and the warmth of being wanted, of being kissed as though I mattered deeply. And in that dimly lit room, I stood caught between those two worlds, unable to step fully into either, yet unwilling to leave. Her words still echoed in my ears. "I'll make sure it won't be your last." The softness in her voice, the way her thumb lingered against my lip, made my body quiver in a way I had never experienced before. I should have stepped away, thanked her politely, and left the room before things went too far. But something in her eyes, something unguarded and sincere, held me still. She leaned closer again, her lips brushing mine as though testing whether I'd turn away. I didn't. My breath shuddered as her kiss deepened slightly, a slow pull that sent warmth racing through me. Her hand slid from my cheek to the back of my neck, fingers threading gently through my hair, anchoring me to her. It wasn't forceful, not demanding. It was careful, deliberate, like she was afraid I might break. Between kisses, she whispered against my mouth, her breath warm. "You have no idea what you're doing to me." Another kiss. "There's something in you. Something I can't resist." Her words wrapped around me, both thrilling and frightening. I felt as though I had stumbled into a secret world I wasn't prepared for, and yet some hidden part of me didn't want to leave it. My chest tightened with confusion. Was this wrong? Was it dangerous? What would my boss think if she knew her mother had her lips pressed against mine in this very moment? But then she kissed me again, softer, slower, as though answering the questions I couldn't voice. My doubts melted into the warmth of her embrace. Her arms circled me, pulling me into her body. The hug was firm but tender, her heartbeat strong against my chest. For the first time, I felt the strange security of being held not as a colleague or a friend but as someone desired, cherished. My thoughts raced. Am I ready for this? Am I like her? Is this what I want? I had never questioned my identity before. I had never thought of myself as someone who might fall into a moment like this. And yet, the longer she held me, the less those labels mattered. All I knew was that I liked how it felt to be wanted. She drew back slightly, her forehead pressing against mine. "You're so special," she whispered, her hand still framing my face. "I've seen many girls, many women, but none of them made me feel this way. Only you." Her confession sent a shiver through me. No one had ever spoken to me like that. Not with such raw honesty, not with such intensity. My throat tightened as if words were trapped inside, unable to escape. I don't know what to say," I admitted softly, my voice trembling. "You don't have to say anything." She kissed me again, slower this time, her lips lingering against mine as though trying to etch the memory into both of us. "Just feel. Just be here with me." Her kisses trailed from my lips to the edge of my jaw, each one deliberate, tender, filled with a strange reverence. My breath hitched as she pressed her lips just below my ear, whispering words that melted into my skin. "I want to keep you close. I want to make you happy." Her arms tightened around me, holding me as though letting go was unthinkable. I stood there, trembling in her embrace, torn between the fear of being caught and the undeniable warmth flooding my chest. Every time her lips found mine again, my resolve weakened. The kisses weren't rushed. They were slow, thoughtful, almost worshipful. She kissed me as though I was fragile porcelain, as though breaking me was the last thing she wanted. I closed my eyes, allowing myself, for just a moment, to forget the consequences. To stop thinking about who she was, whose mother she was, and what it meant. Instead, I let myself feel the press of her lips, the gentleness of her touch, the rhythm of her breath mingling with mine. But the questions wouldn't stay buried. What am I doing? Am I ready for this? Am I really like her? The words looped through my head, but each time I tried to pull away, she drew me back with another kiss, another whisper, another promise of care. "You don't need to be afraid," she murmured, her hand sliding down to hold mine. "I'll never hurt you. All I want is to give you the love you deserve." Her words made my chest ache. No one had ever promised me love like that. Simple, unselfish, filled with care. My eyes stung unexpectedly, and I realized I was dangerously close to tears. She noticed, brushing her thumb gently across my cheek, her expression softening even more. "See," she whispered. "You feel it too." I shook my head faintly, though my body betrayed me, leaning closer into her warmth. "I don't even know what I'm feeling," I confessed. I've never done this before." Her lips curved into a tender smile. "That's what makes it beautiful," she said. Then she kissed me again, gentle, unhurried, filled with a patience that made me want to surrender despite my fear. Time lost meaning in that quiet room. The outside world faded. The party, the laughter, the music. None of it existed anymore. There was only her touch, her kiss, and the strange, confusing awakening unraveling inside me. When she finally pulled back, her fingers still entwined with mine, she looked into my eyes with a seriousness that made my breath catch. "Stay close to me," she said softly. "Don't let this scare you. Just let yourself feel. Let yourself be loved." Her words echoed in my mind long after they left her lips. And as she drew me into another lingering kiss, I realized that something deep inside me had shifted. I didn't have answers yet. I didn't know who I was becoming. But I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't deny the warmth she had awakened in me, no matter how afraid I was of where it might lead. Her lips still lingered on mine when the thought struck me like a sudden cold wind. What if my boss finds out? My heart gave a hard thud inside my chest. The image flashed uninvited, her walking into this quiet room, seeing her mother holding me the way she was now, kissing me with such unashamed tenderness. What would she think of me? Would she hate me? Would she fire me? Or worse, would she see me as something I wasn't sure I was ready to admit to myself? I tried to pull back just a little, but her hands tightened around mine, keeping me anchored. She must have sensed the hesitation in my eyes because her voice came low, steady, almost soothing. "You're scared." I swallowed hard, unable to deny it. What if someone saw us? What if your daughter, my boss? My voice cracked, the words unfinished, as shame and panic tangled in my throat. She tilted her head, brushing her lips lightly against my forehead before answering. "No one will know unless you want them to. And she doesn't have to know. Not now, not ever. This moment is only ours." Her reassurance came like a warm blanket, but it couldn't fully smother the fear clawing inside me. I had never been in a situation like this before. I had never been kissed before tonight. My life until now had been safe, maybe too safe. I had always been the girl who studied hard, followed rules, kept her world small and quiet. I had watched others fall in love, had listened to their stories of heartbreak and passion, but those things had always felt far away, like scenes from a film I could observe but never enter. And yet, here I was, swept into the center of a story I never imagined for myself. My first kiss had come from a woman, not just any woman but my boss's mother. The sheer impossibility of it made my pulse race. My mind screamed at me to step away, to run, to collect myself. But my body leaned closer, craving the warmth she poured so effortlessly into every touch. Society would never understand this. My family would never forgive it. Even I didn't fully understand it. But the comfort of her arms, the gentleness of her hands, the way she looked at me as though I mattered more than anyone else in the world, it all tugged me deeper, past the edges of fear. She kissed my forehead again, lingering there as though trying to press comfort into me. "Don't be afraid," she whispered softly, her lips brushing my skin with each word. "I only want to make you happy." Something in the way she said it unraveled me. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't a threat. It was a promise, simple and tender. A promise that she wasn't here to hurt me, but to care for me. My eyes burned with unexpected tears. I closed them, leaning into her chest as though seeking refuge. Her arms folded around me, firm and protective, and for a moment I let myself rest there, listening to the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. It felt strange and unfamiliar, but it also felt safe, safer than I thought it would. When she tilted my chin up again, her gaze was soft but unwavering. She kissed me slowly, carefully, as if she wanted to erase the fear from my lips. Her fingers intertwined with mine, squeezing gently, grounding me in the moment. The kiss deepened little by little, not rushed, not hurried. Her lips moved against mine in a rhythm that felt almost like breathing, natural, steady, necessary. Every time she pulled back, just enough to whisper, I felt my doubts dissolve a little more. "You're precious," she murmured, kissing the corner of my mouth. "You're safe with me," she promised, pressing her lips to my temple. "I'll never let you feel alone," she vowed, kissing me once more, lingering, as though sealing the words into my soul. I shivered at the tenderness of it all. The touches weren't wild or frantic. They were careful, thoughtful, a patient exploration of closeness. Her forehead pressed gently against mine, her breath mingling with mine, as her thumbs stroked the back of my hands. And in that small hidden room, I felt two worlds collide inside me. One was filled with fear. Fear of judgment, fear of discovery, fear of labeling myself something I had never dared to claim. But the other was filled with warmth, with care, with the intoxicating sweetness of being kissed as though I was something to be treasured. Her hand slid slowly down my arms, wrapping around my waist, pulling me into another embrace. I leaned against her, my cheek resting on her shoulder, and she kissed the top of my head. The gesture was so simple, so caring that my chest ached. I had never been held like that before. Not by anyone. "Why me?" I whispered, the question trembling out of me before I could stop it. She pulled back just enough to look into my eyes, her fingers brushing stray strands of hair from my face. "Because you make me feel alive," she said without hesitation. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who deserves to be loved in ways she's never known. And I want to be the one to give that to you." Her words hit me harder than the kisses, harder than the embrace. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to let myself fall into the comfort of being cared for, to stop questioning, to stop fearing. Another kiss followed, this one slower, deeper, her lips caressing mine with infinite patience. I clung to her arms, my heart thudding wildly, torn between resistance and surrender. For the first time I allowed myself to kiss her back, not boldly, not with confidence, but timidly, testing the waters of something terrifying and beautiful. Her breath caught slightly when I did, and her hold on me tightened, as though she'd been waiting for that small act of acceptance. When we finally broke apart, she pressed her forehead against mine once more, her voice a soft murmur in the dim light. "See, you don't have to be afraid of what this is. Just let me love you." And as she held me, kissing my cheek, my forehead, the tip of my nose with the same gentle reverence, I realized that my fear and my longing were now tangled together so tightly I couldn't separate them. All I could do was stand there, trembling in her arms, wondering if perhaps love wasn't something to be understood but something to be felt, even if it came from the most unexpected place. I left the room slowly, almost tiptoeing as if the walls of the house themselves carried secrets. The sound of my own footsteps echoed louder than I wanted, each step making my heart beat faster. Outside, the air was cooler, fresher, almost like a reminder that the world was still normal, that the party had ended and life had to go on. But inside me nothing felt normal anymore. As I walked toward the car that would take me home, I pressed my hand against my chest. My heart was racing so much, I thought anyone passing by could hear it. The warmth of her lips was still on mine, the taste of her kiss lingering like something both forbidden and beautiful. My mind kept replaying the scene, the quiet room, the soft light, the closeness, the way she had whispered my name like it was something precious. And yet, as much as I wanted to hold on to those moments, guilt kept sneaking in. What just happened? I asked myself over and over. My boss, her daughter, had just celebrated her engagement. She had smiled so brightly that night, full of joy, her ring glittering under the lights. What would she think if she knew what her mother had done with me? What would she think if she knew I hadn't stopped it? I leaned my head against the window of the car as we drove through the quiet streets. City lights blurred, and all I could see was her face, the warmth in her eyes, the gentleness in her voice, the way she had said, "Stay with me always." The words wrapped around me like a promise and a chain at the same time. They comforted me, but they also frightened me. At home, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. My lips looked the same, but they didn't feel the same. My reflection looked like me, but it wasn't the same girl who had walked into that engagement party. Something inside me had shifted, something I couldn't name yet. I touched my cheek, remembering how she had held my face in her hands, how she had kissed my forehead as though I was someone she wanted to protect forever. My eyes closed, and for a moment I let myself smile. It had been my first kiss. My first experience of being wanted, cared for, adored even. But almost immediately the smile faded. The weight of questions pressed on me. What am I supposed to do now? Should I see her again? Should I pretend it never happened? Should I tell someone or keep it buried deep inside me? The thought of anyone finding out, especially my boss, made me shiver. And yet, another part of me, a quieter, softer part, wanted to go back. Wanted to see her again. Wanted to feel her arms around me. Because despite all the confusion, one thing was undeniable. I had felt cared for, cherished in a way I never had before. As I lay in bed that night, sleep wouldn't come easily. My mind was a storm of memories and emotions. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear her voice again. Stay with me always. The words played like a song I couldn't stop, pulling me into a world I didn't understand but couldn't ignore. When dawn finally broke, I sat by the window, watching the first light of morning touch the sky. My heart still raced, but there was also a quiet warmth inside me. A secret happiness, even if it came with fear. I knew life had changed in a single night, and I didn't know where it would take me. But one thing was clear. I would never forget the way she made me feel. The week after the engagement felt like the longest week of my life. At work, everything looked the same. My boss busy with meetings, staff chatting in the corridors, the usual papers piled high on my desk. But inside me, nothing was the same anymore. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped, wondering if it was her. Every evening when I got home, I half expected her words. Come see me. And then it happened. On a quiet Thursday evening, a message came. I'm waiting for you. Don't forget what you promised. My hands trembled as I read it, because I remembered her eyes that night and how she had insisted I visit her every week. I didn't say no. Couldn't. Something about her pulled me in, stronger than my doubts. When I reached her house, the mood was nothing like the lively engagement night. Instead, there was peace, the silence of a home at rest. She welcomed me with the softest smile, as though she had been waiting all along. She guided me into the living room, but it felt nothing like a casual visit. It felt like I was stepping into a space prepared only for me. We talked first. Long talks about nothing and everything. She asked about my day, about my childhood, about my dreams. I had never spoken so freely to anyone before. With her, words flowed easily, as though she created a space where nothing about me could be wrong. And as she listened, her hand often found mine, her thumb drawing circles gently across my skin. When she leaned closer, her perfume filled the air, subtle, warm, like her presence itself. She brushed a strand of hair away from my face, and that simple touch felt more intimate than anything else. Then she kissed me. Slowly, carefully, as if she were afraid to break me. My heart pounded, but unlike the first time, I didn't pull away. Instead, I let the kiss linger. Every meeting after that followed a rhythm of its own. We would sit close, laugh about little things, share stories of our lives, and then, inevitably, silence would fall. A silence heavy with emotion, a silence that always ended with a kiss. Each kiss was different. Some were playful, light pecks followed by laughter. Some were long, deep, filled with unspoken feelings. Her affection was not just physical. She brought me tea in her favorite cup, placed a blanket over me when I shivered, held my hand as though she would never let go. She treated me not like a guest, not like a child, but like someone she wanted to build a life with. Slowly, I began to see it. She wasn't just offering me romance. She was offering me care, consistency, something I had never known before. At first, I still carried fear with me. Every time her lips touched mine, a part of me worried. What if someone finds out? What if my boss sees us? But as the weeks passed, that fear softened. Her warmth melted it away, replacing it with something new. Comfort. One evening, after a long kiss that left me breathless, she whispered against my ear, "You don't have to be afraid with me. I will always make sure you feel safe." And in that moment, I realized she had already started to transform my fear into something else. Love, perhaps. Or at least the beginning of it. Every week I found myself looking forward to those evenings. Work became just the hours I had to pass until I could see her again. The world outside began to feel less important because inside her home, inside her arms, I had discovered something new. Something that wasn't just passion but tenderness. And slowly, I began to accept what I had been denying. I wanted this. I wanted her. It was during one of our quiet evenings together that the realization hit me. We weren't just experimenting anymore. This wasn't a game of curiosity or stolen kisses in the dark. It was something deeper, something that made my chest tighten and my heart race in a way I couldn't ignore. She sat across from me, her hand covering mine. Her eyes fixed on me as though I was the only person in her world. "You know," she whispered, her voice trembling with sincerity, "I never imagined I could feel this way again. But with you, do. You make me feel alive." Her words sank into me, gentle but powerful. I looked at her face, lines of wisdom around her eyes, the softness of her smile, and I realized how much she had begun to mean to me. Each week, I had come here thinking I was being pulled into something unusual, something I wasn't sure I could handle. But now I saw it clearly. I wanted to be here. I wanted her. The fear I had carried for so long, the fear of being judged, the fear of what my boss might think, began to lose its weight. When she held me, none of it mattered. The world outside could never understand, but in her arms, I felt a kind of safety I had never known before. That night when she kissed me, it felt different. Not hurried, not stolen, but whole, like a promise. Her lips lingered on mine, her hands framing my face tenderly. I closed my eyes and let the moment wash over me, realizing I didn't want to escape anymore. I wanted to stay. "I care about you so much," she murmured against my cheek. "More than you can imagine. I want this as to last." And for the first time I didn't question it. I didn't ask myself if it was right or wrong. I simply leaned into her embrace and whispered back, "I want that too." Something inside me had shifted permanently. It wasn't just romance, it wasn't just newness. It was love. And instead of fighting it, I let myself fall. Sometimes when I lay awake at night, I think back to that first evening, the noise of the engagement party fading behind me, the soft glow of a quiet room, and the moment I felt someone's lips on mine for the very first time. I never imagined my first kiss, my first taste of romance, would come from her. My boss's mother, a woman who entered my life so unexpectedly, yet changed me so completely. First, it felt impossible, almost unreal. A secret I carried like a weight on my chest, wondering if I had made a mistake. But as the weeks turned into months and our meetings became the quiet rhythm of my life, I realized something undeniable. This wasn't about rules or expectations, it wasn't about what people would think or what labels society might give me. It was about her. It was about us. With her, I discovered things I didn't even know I was searching for. Her gentleness. A love that didn't demand explanations, that didn't pressure me to be anything other than myself. She made me feel seen, cherished, wanted. And slowly, my fear gave way to something softer, brighter. One evening, after a long day at work, I sat with her in her living room. The lamps were dim, casting golden light across her face. She reached out, brushing her hand against mine, and I felt the same spark I had felt that first night. Only now, it wasn't a spark of fear, but of belonging. "You've become so important to me," she said quietly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness again. But with you, it feels like I have another chance." Her words made my throat tighten. I didn't know how to answer at first, because the emotions inside me were too many, too tangled. But then, looking into her eyes, I realized the truth. I wanted this just as much as she did. I leaned forward, closing the distance between us, and kissed her slowly. There was no rush, no fear, no confusion, just warmth, care, and the unshakable sense that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Her arms wrapped around me, holding me as though she never wanted to let go. I felt her heart beating against mine, steady and sure, and for the first time, I let myself surrender fully. She kissed my forehead after, pressing her lips there with such tenderness that tears gathered in my eyes. "As long as you're with me," she whispered, "you'll never have to be afraid. I'll make sure you always feel loved." Those words sank deep, filling the hollow spaces inside me I hadn't even realized existed. I thought of the girl I had been before, shy, uncertain, untouched by romance, and I knew she was gone. In her place stood someone braver, someone who had tasted love and found comfort in it. That night, as we sat together, her arms around me, I reflected on everything that had brought me here. My first kiss, my first romance, my first real sense of being cherished. It had all come from someone I never expected. And yet, maybe that was the beauty of it. Love doesn't always arrive in the way we plan, or from the people we expect. Sometimes it simply finds us, and when it does, all we can do is let it in. I kissed her again before leaving that evening. A kiss unhurried, full of care, the kind of kiss that spoke of promises unspoken. And as she held me close, her hands warm against my back, I felt something I had longed for all my life: peace. Maybe this was love. Maybe this was where I belonged. And in that moment I knew one thing with certainty. I was cared for, cherished, and for the first time truly fulfilled.